Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patrick Buffy Show. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of the week, which is saving for a down payment on a house. Saving for a down payment on a house. Let me see. I think I got it here. Okay, saving. How to save for a down payment on a house. How to save for a down payment on a house. If you're following what we're doing at this point of our financial journey, we are at the point where uh, most of our money comes to us. So we have a lot of options to do so many things. Let me quickly go over this and recap it from where we started. What it is we started taking control of our money by knowing exactly how much comes in and how much goes out. By doing the budget or budgeting, which gave us margin, right? Because we were able to focus on our our needs and not our wants. And whilst focusing on our needs, we're able to steer towards what we really need in our life, and it gave us margin. And we put that margin that we had onto our debt by paying off our debt. And some of us, we also went out there to do more jobs, or bringing in more extra money to put on our debt. And when we look at it within the period of 24, 25 months, it didn't matter how sizable um, the debt is, we were able to pay it off depending on how we were doing. So whilst we had that margin putting on our debt, and now the debt is gone, it gave us options, right? So what did we do? We started um, saving for rainy day, putting an emergency fund between 3 to 6 months of our living expenses, meaning, what we spend every month, we put in. So let's say if we spend 5,000 every month, or let's say we spend 3,000 every month, we saved 18,000 for rainy day or emergency fund. Then after that, we started investing 15% of our income. So let's say if we're making 100,000, we're saving 15,000 out of it. And we also have win. Now remember, we still have options and we have freedom because a lot of money is coming to us at this point. So like I said last week, we we are going to do stuff, a lot of stuff simultaneously, because I'll say it again, we have more money coming to us. So now we can do more options. See, that's what when you take control of your money, that's what happens to you. See, when you take control, it gives you margin. Margin gives you options. Option gives you um, freedom, and freedom gives you what? Peace, and peace gives you what? Joy. So that's what happens when you're going. I said it earlier on that this is not the only way to be able to acquire wealth or build wealth, but it's the most peaceful, because there's other way where you have to uh, that we all know you have to base on leveraging and all that, and it's so hectic, it's so frustrating. But when you go this route, you owe nobody anything, and you take your time. There's no rushing, and gradually it's going to get you there because of the life you lead. It's not like a get rich quick or anything. So at this point, we invest in 15% of our income. And since we have a lot of money coming to us, because instead of giving the money to all these financial institutions, now it's coming to us. So we see the money, right? So 15%. And this is the point where we're also going to give, we're also going to, put something down payment. If we don't have a house, we're going to start paying for putting some money down for a down payment, and also putting money for the kids at this point. Now, I know some people start putting money away before they do anything for the kids. That sometimes you don't have to go that way. You have to secure yourself first. You have to, only the strong can help the weak. If you are weak, you can't help the weak. So you have to put yourself in a strong position and be able to help your kids. Because if you go through the process we're doing, you might put money down for them, or you might save for them. You probably might not use all of it, because at this point you have control of your money, so you can even cash flow it. So the best thing is to make sure you are in a good financial position. Then you start putting down money. When it comes to this point, people think, oh, I'm a bad parent or not. No, you're not. You are putting yourself in a good position. The best thing you can give to your kids is put yourself in a good position so that you can help them, especially go through school free. So at this point, we are putting money down. You see, for a home ownership is very, very good. It should be a blessing. But if you did not go the right way, it can be a curse. See, the rule of thumb says that your monthly mortgage should not be more than 25% of your take-home pay, right? So let me explain. That means if I'm bringing in 10,000 every month after um, my taxes and my 401ks, or my retirement, taking everything taken out, that money that comes to me, that money that hit my account, that money there shouldn't be more than 25% of that money going towards my mortgage. Why? Because what it is if you do that, we have other things to pay, you will struggle. So that means I have 10,000 coming in. My monthly mortgage should not be more than 2,500. And it's tough because especially when you live in these areas things are very expensive. Houses are expensive. So how do you do that? The other ways you can do that to make sure you stay within that, because the math is the math. You cannot go. It doesn't mean that you live in California or live in New York. Houses are so expensive, so I can do 40% of my income. You will struggle when you do that, and that is when the house becomes a curse instead of a blessing, right? So let's start from I think there was a question that was put on here. Our brother asked a question, and I'll go through the question. Then we start answering the question and go from that side. Let me see if I can see what. See here. Okay, so our brother was asking. Says I have seen seen so people who say that first-time homebuyer is better to pay 3 to 10% down. See, consider the rate of increase. Oh, I think I'm putting the wrong one. Yeah, let me see if I can read it from here. See, okay. All right. So the question was, I posted something saying, hey, put in 20% and it's going to be helpful and all that. So my brother was asking, hey, you heard people saying you can put in, as a first time buyer, you can put in 3 to 10% uh, down, and that, uh, you know, it's tough to do 20% because what it is, by the time you wait, the house, the houses are getting more expensive. So let's say if you need more, down payment, and you have to wait 5 years, by that time that house is not that way anymore. So it's so tough. All right, so let me go from there and let's answer from there. Yeah, what it is it is true. First of all, let me go through these types of mortgages that we have. We have conventional mortgage, we have jumbo, we also have the veteran one, and the veteran one, we have the the government one, the FHA and all that. We have different kind of mortgages and loans that you can get them, but it all comes with a price, right? So let's say FHA uh, is a mortgage that you can, even if you have your score is down, the government helps you to be able to go through that process to be able to get a house. And it's good because what it is most people, when we are paying on a mortgage, it's the same as renting and paying, and also they think they are throwing the money away. So they want to be, get it quicker and get there to be able to let that money come to them. So that is fine. But like I said earlier on, home ownership is a good thing. But if you don't take your time, it's going to be a curse instead of a blessing. And you don't want it to be a curse. Why am I saying that? What it is if you put in 3% down, which you can get a house, right? So let's say you put a 3% down, most likely you might not get a conventional loan. And when you look at conventional loan and you look at FHA, there are big difference. What it is FHA, even if you have a credit score of 580, you can get a loan to be able to buy. And you put 3% down. The only time you put more, I think, when you have just 500, you have to put about 10% down, right? But what it is one, you have to pay PMI, and it's so expensive. What it is in the beginning, you think, oh, I put a little bit down and all that, so I'm able to get a home, and it's good. But what it is it's so expensive at the end. You see, most of the time we make decisions for a short time. Anytime you're trying to do something, you're doing your finances, make decisions for a long term, not a short term. When you calculate everything on those if government-backed loans, it's so expensive at the end. Why? Because there are so many clauses in there that you pay. You have to pay upfront fees for so many things that you will not pay on a conventional loan. So even if you put in less amount or smaller amount, at the end you might be losing. Unlike the conventional loan where you get more, straightforward. If you have 5% or more, I mean, sometimes even if you have 3%, you can get conventional loan, but it all depends on the situation and all that. So it is good to put more down as much as you can, but you don't have to wait for 20%. You see, the best down payment is 100%. You buy in a house is 300, you pay everything, that is fine. But we do not have that money, that kind of money to go buy it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to put as much as you can to be able to bring the money you're going to borrow down. So if I'm buying a house and it's let's say it is 20%, let me see, yeah, if I'm buying a house and it's let's say 200, 20% is 4,000, 40,000. And if I put 4,000 down, first of all, I'm not paying PMI, which doesn't help me, help the mortgage company. What it is you remember not long ago there was a crisis, housing crisis, and what they realized was people were just going buying houses with no money down, and subprime mortgages were taking advantage of them. Because of that, when the hardship came, people just left the house because they had nothing in the game. They had no skin in the game. So at this point, what they started doing was they want you to put money on it also, or put skin in the game, because if you have a house 200 and you have 40,000 in there, and any hardship come, you not just leave your 40,000 out there. You might want to sell it, or you might want to do something about it. You fight for it. So that is the reason why all these, were put in place to be able to make people put their skin in the game, and also they will be able to stay in. So what it is if you don't, but still, it's still high. The 20% is people still can pay it. So they made something available for the bankers to, or the companies can borrow money for you, but what the money they're borrowing for you, you're paying interest on it. And so that interest, or what money you're paying, it doesn't come to you. It helps them if you are not able to pay your mortgage. And that is one thing that we all want to avoid, because what it is it adds up. Remember, the rule says, or the rule of thumb says, you cannot use more than 25% of your mortgage, right? Sorry, your take-home pay. So you want to do as much as you can to reduce it. So if we're buying a house and it's 200,000, and you've paid 20%, now you're not borrowing on 200, you're not borrowing 200,000 anymore. You're borrowing on thousands, 160. So if you put 10% down, which is going to be 20, you're borrowing on 180. If you put 3% down, which will probably be about, let me see, I think it'll probably be about 6,000. That means you are borrowing on 194,000. So that brings what you pay in a month, or your monthly payment, down, and it helps you to be able to be easy on you. I will say this again. Most of the time, what it is, it's not about the down payment. It's about we trying to buy a house of our dream. So, we've seen our friend buying a house that cost maybe 500,000 or 600,000. We want similar houses. But what we don't know is most people buying those houses, this might be their second or third home. So the ruling equity from the other side to come in to be able to cover some of the down payment. You being the first time trying to do the same thing is going to hurt. So what they tend to do is either they go the 3% and pay more high monthly payment, which is going to be more than their 25% of their income, and they will start struggling, and I love our community. What it is our community. We won't lose the house, but we won't sleep. Have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs all going into the house, and it's very frustrating. You don't want to do that. But what you can do is you can buy a house that you know your let's say you can buy something very small and go from there, because you can always move up in houses. So let's say if I want to buy a house and the house is 500,000, I don't have that amount, that kind of down payment. I don't even have 5% down payment. What do? I can start from, let's say I have 40,000 down, or have maybe have maybe 50,000. Let's go in for that kind of house. 10%, 5% is fine, and get you a good mortgage, or like a good loan from conventional loan, where the clauses are not a lot. Where the house goes up a little bit, you can get away from the PMI and all that. The FHA, there are so many clauses, you can't even get out from the PM. You have to refinance the whole thing, or sometimes there's even a clause on there. Even if you're refinancing, you have to pay a penalty for it. But conventional loans mostly doesn't go that way. So, and all you're trying to do is trying to make sure your payment is down. So what you do is just buy a house that you can afford at that point. So if I can afford 200,000 house and pay maybe 10%, or maybe I can afford 300,000 house and pay 10%, it might not be the house of your dream. But remember, the good thing about real estate is most of the time it goes up a little bit. So 2, 3 years, 4 years, I'm still saving, I'm still paying on my house, and boom, I have maybe about a 200,000. 2, 3 years, maybe I have 40,000 on it as equity, or I have probably maybe 50,000, and I'm still saving. So now I combine those amount, and I can go up a little bit, even if I'm not still where that point where I want to be. I can buy. Like I said, you can always move up. You don't have to, what it is. We always trying to be like, oh, I want to dream of my house, but in reality, most people don't stay in that house for that long. So yes, you want this, but you can always move up. So buy what you can afford at this point, so that instead of the house being a blessing, it doesn't mean a curse on you. So let me see. We're going to run some numbers and see why it is good to go through all this process. And apart from that too, the more you put down, sometimes it helps you with your credit score get a good interest. Also, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it helps you get a good interest or get a good loan. So it helps you on all those things. And that's all we're trying to do, is we're trying to make sure we bring everything down, especially the interest that we pay on a house is so huge. What it is we don't even we don't even look at it, because if you go look at it, you won't even buy a house, right? You won't even buy it. So let's run some numbers, and let me show you some scenarios and see how. I love showing people numbers. I love showing folks numbers and see how, because it sometimes make more sense when you show them the numbers. So let me see if I have this here. I can bring it up, and let's all do this. All right, so I have a mortgage calculator, and this is just a regular mortgage calculator. You can get it anywhere. It's not anything special or anything. When you go online, plug in mortgage calculator, you get it. So let me make it a little bit larger. Okay, so let's say you want to buy a house, and when you're trying to buy a house of let's say 500,000, because most these days most places getting a house for 300,000 houses and all that is not pretty. So let's say 400. I mean, you might get a decent house, 400. Like a four house that can fit like a 4 family and all that. It might not be something you want, but remember, you can always move up. So if we put in a 400, we're buying a house. First of all, you have to know how much. You see, some folks, we don't even think about it. Oh, I want to buy a house. What? They don't know. I just want to buy a house. You have to know what kind of house you want, how much you can afford at that point, and look to it and say, hey, this is how much I can afford, this is how much I can do, and go through. So that is the first thing you have to do, especially first time buyers. You don't know more about it, right? So 400, let's say if we put in 20% down, right? So if you put in 20% down, most people go on a 30-year mortgage. So let's do 30 years, right? If we do this, our monthly payment, because what it is look, I'll show you something after that. When we put this down, we have 30 years. We have the percentage of the interest. Since we go in 30 years, usually it's different from when you go in 15 years. No, my recommendation will be 15 years, but most of the time we are so tied up, we can't do 15 years because 15 years is more. So let's go by the normal way that about 70% of the population, go, and it's 400, um, not 20%. A lot of them don't do 20%, but let's do 20% for now. I'll show you different scenarios. And what it is, we go 30 years. The rate is now, as at this point, it's now 7% when you go for 30 years. And this is how much you're going to pay, 272 as your mortgage for the month. All right. When you look at here, right? Look, okay, so principal interest is 2,129, and the property tax, this might vary a little bit, but on average, it's about this. Why? Because a place like New Jersey, their property tax are very high. So if you live in Jersey, this would be a little bit different from that. In a homeowner's insurance, that might depend on whatever it is, the area and all that, and also your homeowner's dues. So this is ballpark estimate. My problem might be this. All right, let's do the same thing and see this, right? And let me do a little bit calculation here. So let's say if we paying a house and this house cost this much and we're paying 2,729, all right? And we're going to pay it for 30 years. If we do the same, if we pay the same thing for 30 years, by the time we're done paying this house, we will pay 979,560. 979,560. Right. This is the reason why I recommend, or most financial planners recommend, if you can do more, if you can go about 15, it's good. But what it is you don't want to be do something that is so tight. But if you follow what we're doing at this point, we owe nobody anything. So we have a lot of margin that we can put on this mortgage. So you can sometimes, most of the time, people that go through the process, they usually go like 15 years. So let's put the same 15 years. And first of all, this is what we see. The first thing we see is the interest rate changes. If you go 15 years, the interest rate change, right? So from 7 to 7.5. That's, you might think this is small. It's a huge difference. But guess what? We were paying the 30 years. We were paying 2,721. So you might think if you do 15 years, then that money is going to double, right? Instead of, so when you double, it's supposed to be 5,000 something, right? But guess what? Look at how much you're paying. You're paying 3,379. So even that side alone is something, because you didn't pay a double of it. And guess how much it's going to be? Since we're doing it for 15 years, if we're going through all paying everything and paying it off, by the time we're done with 15 years, 3,379 times 180, because it's, and guess how much it is? We're paying, if we do that, by the time we're done paying, we will paying 608. 608, right? 608, 200. With all due respect, taxes are part of it. So I'm just generalizing it. You probably, if you take the taxes out, which you might pay anyway, even if you pay off your house, you still have to pay the taxes on there. So I'm not, since there are taxes both part, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave it this way. So 272. So we have the first one, when we do 30 years, it was 979,560. And just by doing the 15 years, guess how much interest we saved? We saved 371,000 interest just by moving from 15 10 years, 30 years to 15 years. So you see, the financial institutions won't get more from you. That is the reason why they do not advertise the 15-year mortgage. They always advertise the 30 years. Because if you go through the process like we just did, that's how much you save yourself interest. That is how much you save yourself interest. It's the same way. Let's say if you you have the same way. And even if you have 30 years and you start to pay 15 years, so if this you were supposed to pay 2,721 and you start paying 3,371, even though they have it as 30 years and you start paying at the rate of 15%, you save the same amount too. So that is why we say, because and usually when you have more down, it gives you the option or it gives you the option to be able to do what? To be able to put more down payment and to be able to do the 15 years. Because if you're doing 3%, 5%, it's so hard to do that 15 years. That's the reason why we recommend that. And that's the reason why we follow that process, because at that point we buy in a house. We do not have much going out and we can afford it because we have put more. Since we weren't paying anybody anything, we were able to save more money, put it down and do that. So let's do this. Let's also go to the other way where, let's say if you're doing 3%, right? Let's say you buy a house for four and you're doing 3%. 3% is 12,000, right? Well, I think I said 6,000 the other way. So and let's say we go on 30 years. So if you're doing 3,000, 3,000, 3%, 400,000, 3%, which is 12,000, and we do 30 years. Guess how much we pay? So all of a sudden, the mortgage, your monthly mortgage, moved from the 2,721 to 3,496. Why? Look at this. The PMI, if I can see the arrow, the PMI is in there, and you're paying just a chunk of it, 323. So if you can, you might want to try as much as you can to avoid it. That's why even let's do this as 3% or 5%. You pay less than less on the PMI. See, at least you pay 317. So let's say if you do 10%, the more you put down, all the way to, you see, you pay it's not much though, but it still changes a little bit, because on the mortgage, when it comes to mortgage, even $100, if you're saving $100 monthly, it helps a lot, because this is not like you put it on your mortgage. This is something you're giving for somebody for free. The financial institution getting this, somebody will say chopping it for free. So you want to do as much as you can to be able to do that. And guess what happens? See, and this, if we to calculate this, the same thing that the same house, 400,000, you put in 3% on the house. Guess how much you're gonna pay by the time you're done paying this house. Let's say by the time you done paying this house, you pay 1.258,000. So look at the difference, 1.2. So from that time, from the 3%, you've paid extra almost 400,000, almost 400,000. So I understand, you want to rush into a home, and there are some people, when they are paying for rent and all that, they think they are wasting money. You are not wasting money. If you tell me you're going to rest for the rest of your life, I would disagree with you and say, hey, you might want to start thinking about buying a house, because home building or home buying and owning a home helps us also build wealth. So, but if you know what you're doing, renting for 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, to be able to acquire down payment, to be able to put a lot of down payment down. Don't think about what people will say, like you throwing money. No, you're not throwing money away. It's called buying time. And I can guarantee you, if two people right here are doing the same thing, let's say one of them got 12,000 and they put 12,000 down, 3% of it, and they stop doing this, and you wait for 2 more years and get more and get, let's say, the 20% and do the same thing. Probably the house might have gone up a little bit, but if you do the calculation, you'll be winning more than what they are doing. You'll be way ahead of them when it comes to the calculations. But we don't factor all those into consideration. Even though you waited 2 years, they might build some equity on that house and all that. But you coming in, one, you're paying less, and you can put more money on there, and by calculation, you'll be way ahead. So we do not factor all this in there. And like I said again, if you put in good, sizable amount of money, yes, you will be able to get a good loan most of the time, because we understand, getting 3% and all that, those loans, there are so many clauses on there. Even if you want to refinance, you have to pay a penalty for it. if you want to do this, there are so many clauses that you can. The same way it's like the veteran too. You put no money down, so definitely, they have upfront fees and all those things that you will not pay those fees on the other mortgages. So yeah, it's good for us to start looking for a home, start trying to buy a house, but the down payment matters a lot. So the thing, what we can do is we can, if we want to avoid all these, we don't want to wait. The more we're waiting to put in more money, the houses are going up and all that. Focus on what you can afford at this time, and you can always move up. You can always move up. So you buy something for 300,000, which might not be pretty, which might not be what you want. But like I say, hey, you're not in competition with anybody. You build a little bit of equity, and you don't stop. What you do is you also, whilst you paying building equity, you also still stashing away a little bit more money. So 2-3 years, you see you're comfortable. You can pay, maybe at the same time too, your income might go up. So things are changing, the numbers are changing. You sell this house, probably have something over there. You've also saved something, you put it together, then it can put you to where you want to be. Even if it doesn't get there, get whatever you can at that point. Or you can do that. There's nothing wrong with you changing houses going up. So far as you're winning, you're doing it the right way. It's always good to do that. So let's make sure we don't rush into it. Like I said, home buying or owning a home is very good, but if you do not do it the right way, it's going to be a case. I'm telling you, there are so many people here that they didn't. That's when we call you a house poor, because you bring in maybe 4,000, 5,000, or let's say you bring in 6,000, and about 3,500 is your home mortgage. You will struggle, no question about that. Even with that point, if you don't owe anybody anything, you will struggle because you have other things to pay. You have utilities, you have groceries. If you have kids, especially you have kids that you have to take care of and all that. You buy gas, you buy this. So make sure you stay within the rule of thumb, which says 25% of your take-home pay should be your mortgage. 25% of your take-home pay should be your monthly mortgage. Um, what I've seen is, there's two things when it comes to this: rich people and poor people thinking. When rich people or poor people are trying to get, when poor people are trying to get stuff, they ask for how much a month. And when they see how much a month, oh, then we can afford it. They don't think long term. But rich people ask, how much is the whole thing? And they make the analysis and see how much they can attack it. So don't think, well, how much, well, I can pay 3,000. By the time you realize you have so many things going on in your life and you can't even take care of this. So yeah, home buying is good. Let's make sure we do it the right way. The down payment is good, but at this point, if let's say you have something, your target is to buy a 600,000 house, but you have maybe 40,000, it's okay. Go in for 400,000, and you can always move up. Especially, when you look at it every year, majority of us, our income goes up. So by the time you realize 2-3 years, your income, might change. You are up income, and also you have the 400,000, which you probably build a little bit of equity. So I think that is the problem. I think the problem is we always want to follow somebody what they are doing, and the plan is not our plan. You have to be your own goals. If your own goals, you don't look at what somebody is doing. You look at what you can afford at that time. Even though you have a target that you want to hit that target, if it's not ready, and you can, because 40,000, if you have 40,000, is good. Buy something, even though what you want to buy is 600, buy it now. Start building equity on this one and all that. Don't force to go get a 600 and put just 3% and have these mortgages that have so many clauses that even when your income goes up and you want to refinance, you still have to pay a fee and all that. Do the 400, do the 40, and that, you are free on that mortgage. You can do a lot of things. When you're getting out, it's so easy and all that. So these mortgages got so many clauses on there. Sometimes the realtors, what it is this is their job also. They want to eat. They have to eat. And so some of them, they bring these programs and all that to you. I mean, most of them don't know all these clauses and all that because they are, they are not the finance, they are not financing it, but they know the programs. So sometimes they bring these programs, they think it might help you and all that, but at the end, you might be losing. So you have to make sure you ask questions, you go through yourself, see what it is, before you get into all these programs. So yes, you can, get a house for 3%, 3.5. But my suggestion is to make sure you go in and do it right, because the same amount, if it's 600 house you're trying to buy and you can only pay 3%, turn that into a 400 and pay 20% or 15% or 18% or 10%, and you can move up. There's no law that says when you buy a house, you have to wait for, when you wait 2 years, when you sell it, everything comes to you. But even if you are rolling into, if it's not 2 years and you're rolling into another house, there are some things that sometimes you don't pay the taxes and all that. So all these are, some of the things we have to do. We have to make sure we go in buying a house, we're buying it strongly. You do not want to be a house poor. That's the last thing you want to do. Like I said, in our community, we won't lose the house, but we won't sleep because we have to take up 4 or 5 jobs and everything goes into the house, not like you investing. So at this point of our journey, if we do not have a house, we put in more in our house. We put in more down payment to be able to get it. So that's the whole thing. 3% will get you a house, no doubt, but the clauses are too much. And make sure the plan is your plan, not somebody else following what somebody is doing. So make sure, and that is what is going to get you the freedom and the peace. Because if you buy a house, you have 20% down and you go 15%, you owe nobody anything, or your money, you can see them. It's so nice. That's when the peace and the joy comes in. You sleep like a baby. You don't owe anybody except your house. So I think we're gonna, from here, like I said, at this point we're doing things simultaneously, all together at the same time. At this point, we also have to start putting something for the kids. So next week, our topic is going to be about student loans. So make sure you spend wisely, save intentionally, and give. This is your boy Patrick Buffy. Until we meet again, peace.